A recent report by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization shows that more than 20 countries across the world have faced food insecurity, even high-level food insecurity in some countries. And this is basically because these countries have faced conflicts, economic crisis, natural disasters, and less access to humanitarian aid. And this special edition of ETV English will focus on these issues and the progress of food security in Ethiopia, and also the contribution of the agriculture sector to the macroeconomy, and also engaging the private sector in the agri so that it can be boosted up. Thank you for watching us, and my guest today is Dr. Delessa Bulcha, who is economist, chief economist. Thank you for watching us, and thank you for coming to ETV Special Edition.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start with the first issue, which is food security. So what do we mean when we say a country has realized food security?
Thank you. This issue is one of the very critical issues that the world organizations and countries evaluate their economy's achievement. Food security is when all citizens or people have access to the food which is necessary for their daily life. That access is not impeded by their social or economic aspect. That accessibility, availability, and all this affordability by itself is included. Therefore, when we can achieve this one, we can achieve this accessibility for every people, we call it, as a country, is food secured.
So can you explain the attributes of food security?
Yeah, sure, we can explain. By the way, food security in economic terms, or in the language I've explained for you, that is the accessibility, affordability. That means a sick person, for example, sleeping in his bed, cannot access the food, but it should be accessed in a way. Accessibility, that means the food is secured, means in any way, even transportation by itself and anything should not impede it. When it comes to the attributes of this food security, you can see it also from the calorie which needs. For example, how much do we need? The smallest calorie people need to survive is like 1200 or 1200 calorie, but for the average people, for growing people like that, it needs like 2400 calorie, for example, for an individual to feel healthy and continue his daily life. This, by the way, food security issue differs from country to country. When it comes to Ethiopia, for example, about more than 20 million people are food insecure by this time. This food insecurity is attributed to, for example, like unemployment issue. You know, about 20 million people are food insecure in Ethiopia, I said. About 23% are unemployed at the same time. The other way also, if you go, the attributes of unemployment, low productivity, low education, the number of, for example, family size when it comes to an individual, and the population by itself is one of those factors that lead to that may aggravate the food insecurity. Therefore, food insecurity is actually there is also food insecurity is one thing. There is also another, nutrition insecurity. Nutrition insecurity is, for example, a person may eat a food that is not nutritionally or the different type of vegetables, fruits. If you don't get, that is not called nutritionally secured. Therefore, obesity, a person who is obese may be food insecure, by the way. It may be food secured, but food nutrition insecure, that person may be. Therefore, this food insecurity has many aspects, many definitions in different countries, but the simplest thing we can explain with is having access to it. In Ethiopia, as I've told you, it is about 20 million people are lacking their food. By the way, this one is also being aggravated by natural disaster, locust, as you know, and the war in the country is also aggravating this food insecurity. Yearly, about 10 million people are being helped by the government and the NGOs to get their daily food. Therefore, this food insecurity is increasing due to natural and man-made disasters. In addition to that, there's a war not only in Ethiopia, but internationally. Russia and Ukraine are in war nowadays. About 30% of the world wheat production is made by Russia and Ukraine. Russia is the second country next to China. It is the second top country that produces wheat. Not only that one, even fertilizer production, one of the dominant countries, Russia and Ukraine. Therefore, they have significant portion of the world economy. That is also aggravating inflation in our country, by the way. Not only inflation, that inflation leads to also food insecurity. Therefore, food insecurity in Ethiopia is being aggravated due to inflation, due to population. As I've told you, lack of land by itself, it is a problem, because only about 14% of Ethiopian farmers do have more than 2 hectares of land, to farm, to undertake agricultural practice. But less than that, those people having less than 2 hectares, those households having less than 2 hectares of land are mostly food insecure in one way or the other. But when we take those 14% which are having more than 2 hectares of land for their agricultural practices, they are better than others. But you know, they are only 14%.
Okay.
These and other issues.
1/4.
Yeah, 1/4. Therefore, these and the related issues are the attributes and the factors that are aggravating. By the way, one point I want to add, I don't want to leave it, is the leadership commitment by itself. Leadership commitment is not a commitment simply we just tell that we are committed, the leadership, agriculture sector. You have to be first professional, act professionally, know the worldwide issues. And the agriculture sector by itself has tried, by the way, to solve this problem. If you see, for example, the last programs that have been undertaken in Ethiopia, starting from ADLI, Agricultural Development-Led Industrialization, PASDEP, PSRP, and lastly, the Growth and the Transformation Plan. Those programs have tried to solve the agricultural sector and the food security in Ethiopia. And even the GTP has tried to transform the sector from agricultural-led to industrial-led. And the country also has planned to become lower middle income country. But those things were not achieved well. But the achievements were before, for example, ADLI, Ethiopian poverty, those living in poverty line are around 47%. And during the end of the GTP time, by the way, those Ethiopians living under poverty line has reduced to 23, from 47 to 23. There are many achievements, but the existing challenges, even though we passed through these long programs, like 5 programs, as I've told you, we couldn't achieve food security. The first thing. The other is we are still undertaking traditional farm still now. Our farm is dependent on rain again. Therefore, there are many issues to be changed. And the new government also has planned the 10 years prosperity plan, as you know. Therefore, I'm sure in these issues, food security issue will be settled if worked well.
You have already just mentioned the challenges of attaining food security in Ethiopia. That's a really good point. But how do you say or just tell the contribution of the Ethiopian agriculture sector to the food security program?
Yeah, thank you. This is also a basic issue as to me. Food agriculture for Ethiopia is a backbone of the economy. That word by the we cannot explain its contribution to the nation. As I've told you, Ethiopia's agriculture has employed about 80% of Ethiopians. More than 40% of our export is on agriculture, from agricultural sector. So it is agricultural, we have to process and export it instead of getting that. So it is the dominant sector that is helping the economy. In addition to that, when we come to food security, let alone after modernizing Ethiopian economy, the existing traditional economy by itself has been able to feed Ethiopians. Still now we are being fed from such a traditional rain-dependent economy. Whatsoever these challenges are existing, this is the reality. And again, it is also feeding the Ethiopian economy. But still, there are many who are food insecure, by the way. So without emphasizing on agricultural transformation, without changing the way we are undertaking our agricultural practices, modernizing agricultural technology, utilizing agricultural technology like fertilizer, like the modern concepts are now coming, and combiner to collect it. By the way, harvesting by itself is one of the basic issue in world agricultural system. We lose around 1/4 in harvesting system. Therefore, harvesting by itself should be supported by harvesting, plowing, tractors should be supplied, like irrigation agriculture has to be put in place. Therefore, what I want to just recommend is that the leadership of Ethiopia, whoever that person is, whoever that party is, without emphasizing on agricultural productivity, include transforming the agricultural sector, you cannot transform the country. You cannot achieve also the food security, whatever plan we have. And this sector, in addition to, I want to add that Ethiopian agriculture is dependent on rain, I said, plus it is dominated by smallholder farmers. Therefore, these smallholder farmers have tried to feed Ethiopia for most of the years, but they couldn't. You know why? They have a small plot of land, and even degradation, different issues are affecting and that leads to even the environmental impact and all that. So the government is now recommending to bring them together and undertake the agricultural practices and working together and teaming, creating cooperative of farmers like that. Therefore, it is the backbone of the economy of Ethiopia and the nation's existence.
Well, so what should be done to augment the production and productivity of the agriculture sector in Ethiopia?
Other countries have achieved food security. By the way, food security is it's not actually moving target, but once you achieve it, you have to keep it, unless like natural disasters may come. Many economies could not cope up with the shock. Like, for example, if you take Kenya, they have tried to achieve they have achieved it very well, and they have reached also the middle income country, as you might have been informed. But you know, the Kenyan economy, Tanzania by itself is also has achieved, Ghana, but their problem is their economy is not able to withstand with the shock. Whatever shock, natural it may be, man-made it may be. So this shock has to be withstood. But when we come to the case of Ethiopia, to be able to secure our food security, we have to emphasize one thing: there are technology. We have to utilize technology. The technology means importing different technologies to our country, machineries, as I've told you earlier. We are utilizing traditional way of agricultural practices, which takes around 75% of our agricultural sector is the traditional one. If you take, for example, the combiner, how much of Ethiopian agriculture or farmers use combiner, it's less than 1% of the agricultural farm is being harvested by combiner. And the same is true for tractor. Therefore, it has to utilize technology. as I've told you earlier, different types of technology, fertilizer, different type of technologies are existing in the world. The other issue we can emphasize in is on increasing the productivity and the production. Increasing productivity is per hectare, you can increase productivity utilizing different systems. And in addition to that, we have plenty of land which is left unplowed in Ethiopia at this stage. Therefore, the government also, as you know, has is undertaking different initiatives, like no land should be left unaggregated, like that. You have heard that.
As you mentioned earlier, agriculture remains the backbone of Ethiopia's economy, just contributing to about 40% of the GDP of the country. But given the drought in different parts of the country, climate change, as well as the instabilities in different parts of the country, the price hike, the global price hike in food items, agricultural inputs as well, and other challenges you have just mentioned so far, how can the sector continue at least contributing to the GDP?
Sure. By the way, the country is without agricultural transformation. As I've told you, you cannot transform the Ethiopian economy. It's very difficult. You know why? It employs about 80%. By the way, that is the biggest thing, you know, because we emphasize on the people, on individuals, not only the GDP. GDP, by the way, shows both the poor, the least earner, and the largest earner, we are together, and the tail, that is the Ethiopian economy. When it comes to employment, but that it goes to every household. Therefore, it employs about 80% of our people. So as you said, without transforming this sector, it is unthinkable to transform our economy. So if you want to keep this, I don't think that reducing the share of or increasing the share of agriculture is not a big deal in Ethiopian economy. The biggest deal is it can expand, you can increase the productivity and the production of the agriculture. But the major issue here is the service sector, industry sector. Even there should be a strong link between this manufacturing, service, agriculture. Unless the agriculture by itself, if you want to increase the agriculture, to increase or to improve the food security of the country, letting alone or leaving the manufacturing service sector, it's unthinkable. All should be linked. All needs attention, because once you grow agriculture, by the way, before some years, you know, maize production has expanded in our country and nobody was there to buy. If we process that and send it to export it to another country, you can utilize. Therefore, when we talk of agricultural development, increasing the productivity of agriculture, we have to think of also it is input for the manufacturing, for the service, for hotel, tourism, and others. Therefore, all the sector. By the way, as you said, your concern is how can we keep the 40%? The concern is not keeping it 40%, but for me, its coverage may continue to be 40, but it has to increase. Once the service sector, all sectors, if their growth is, if their share to the economy increases, by the way, this agriculture sector by itself will remain itself, and by simply, we can increase the number, we can increase the productivity, and we can increase the share of other sectors, then their share will remain the same, but their contribution to the economy, the life of the people will boost us to me. Therefore, to increase or to keep agriculture as dominant sector, the government has to give a strong emphasis again. By the way, we cannot let alone agriculture. Therefore, as you said, in technology, in bringing together those sectors, attentions of investors, even the private investors should be given chance to invest in agriculture so that we can keep the productivity high and its contribution to the economy, as you said. Therefore, many issues can be dealt here, but those issues all are managed under leadership, quality leadership. The agricultural leadership is backbone of the leadership in our country. As you know, the agricultural, the green legacy being undertaken in Ethiopia by itself contributes to the economy. In what way? In the environmental protection, the green, for example, we can carbon marketing, carbon credit, by the way. We can also take credit, by the way, by selling the carbon contribution we are making. We are making a low amount of air pollution, but we are taking, the impact is very high in Ethiopia. Therefore, we can also trade that carbon and take credit on that.
Prime Minister Abiy has recently said or announced the wheat farming, large-scale wheat farming, and also the Prime Minister is saying Ethiopia might just start exporting the wheat surplus. And also there is another new trend. It is in fact global trend, and Ethiopian Prime Minister has given due attention for this, urban agriculture. How do you see that?
Sure. Simply we can see from data. In Ethiopia, we have imported, for example, 1.6 billion tons last year. This year, not, by the way. We've imported, I don't think even, it may not be 0.6 million ton by this year. We are going to almost produce those 1.6 million, probably in 2-3 years. I'm sure Ethiopia will produce that wheat. And my own experience, for example, in Oromia region, I've seen it. Farmers even undertaking not only wheat, by the way, they are producing that one during the summer season, and during the rainy season they are going to produce another product. The amazing issue is 2 times they are going to produce per year. That is the experience we didn't have before. Therefore, that is really a good move being undertaken, and I'm sure 1.6 billion ton production of wheat, be it large scale or not, is very, it's possible and achievable after 3 years, as to my estimation and the government plan. Even it was planned for 2015, that of Ethiopia, but it couldn't, I don't think it will succeed next year, but maybe after next year, we can try to export it. At least we can achieve ours. In case of urban agriculture, not only urban agriculture, by the utilizing different technologies like vertical production or agriculture, when you don't have sufficient plot of land, you can use your own green area or your own yard to just produce this one. Not only even poor countries like US by itself, US, Israeli are well experienced, or they have best practices in urban agriculture and vertical farming, by the way. Therefore, I'm sure if we can take this one with open mind, positive thinking, it can add value, and especially for the biggest issue you have raised, for this food security, it is really one of the basic issues. And finally, I want to add, we have to also diversify this sector. Diversification, we should not only depend on agriculture sector that produces on plot of land. Fishery, animal products, they have to be given attention. By the way, fish, in Ethiopian fish is produced by fresh water, and other countries, they don't have maybe sufficient food for that. But if we can produce fish, sufficient fish in Ethiopia, even its export is very possible. The other sectors should be also given concern. In agriculture, not only agriculture farming, again, animals, as I've told you, fishery and others can also be considered as a main move to achieve our food security, as you said at the beginning.
There are just some concerns like there is no much awareness in the among the urban population about urban agriculture. There is a space issue, enough space issue in urban to make the urban agriculture goal a realization. What do you say?
Thank you. Have land for farming and issues. And again, we are now not securing, we are not food secured again. We are having around 20 million people. By the way, in Addis, as you said, urban agriculture, the major thing the Addis government is doing is they have established bureau which works on agriculture, by the way. In history, I don't know. I don't think that it existed before, because the first time the Bureau for Agriculture is established by the new government now. Therefore, that is now establishing different centers in Addis Ababa to to create awareness, even to share some plants for them so that they can utilize at home, or so that they can take it and undertake that urban agriculture. Therefore, the government is trying to do those things. In addition to that, by the way, I've seen many government employees especially, they are very interested, because food security, when we say, if you can get it on a kind of a small land, or by the way, it does not need even that land. Like, for example, some plastics we use and throw it, it can be utilized for urban agriculture, and the technology is available. Your media, EBC by itself, and other medias are now telling people, teaching people, creating awareness. We have to keep that one, not only the government or the professionals. We all need attention. Food security is our issue. We need bread for our citizen. It has to be accessible. It has to be affordable. If we say, we have to utilize all opportunities we have. Ethiopia has sufficient land, sufficient environment, sufficient potential to feed its people, not only its people, even to export it. The problem is how we are utilizing. That matters. The government, the private, the regional religious institutions, medias, what they are doing matters. So if we can exploit these opportunities, this potential, we can do amazing things in the world.
Well, that is a brilliant mentioning. And now let's move on to the increasing engagement of the private sector in the Ethiopian agriculture sector. If the private sector is really engaged at a high scale, it can just be contributing to workforce. And what is your evaluation of the trend in Ethiopia so far?
As I've told you, we have come across many programs in Ethiopia until the last GTP2 that ended, I think, in Ethiopian calendar it is 2008, something, 2012 it is ended in Ethiopian calendar. Until that, we came across many programs that have tried to solve many problems in Ethiopia. One of the major issues we left with is that unemployment issue, especially educated and skilled unemployed, that graduates unemployed, not only from even TVET, high school, even university graduates. We are not able, the economy is not able to hold these unemployed individuals, especially those graduates from universities. But to change this scenario, the government has taken many measures. The first and the one thing is expanding the investment. By the way, let me raise from the region I know very well, Oromia region. Last year, they have evaluated the investment and the private sector participation.
You mean just in the agri sector?
In agriculture sector, they have evaluated, and more than half of the investment or the private sector participating on that area is not doing what they have intended to do. Therefore, they have taken the land and give it to another investors. Now, more than 4,700 investors have started a new business in agricultural sector. By the way, the government, there are SMEs, small and micro enterprise, and others. But that cannot even capture or cover all the unemployed we have. So we have to expand the private investment. By the way, the commitment of Ethiopian government to increase the participation of the private sector, or to bring it to the driving chair of the car, the private, is well known, or you can see it simply because, as you know, the government is trying to even increase in telecommunication and others. Even there is also concern like PPP, public-private partnership. They are trying to undertake investments like this, a share between the government and the private. Therefore, I'm sure this sector, if it is supported like this, and those bureaucracies in the investment commission and the regional investment, land issues are settled, it can really reduce the unemployed rate we have. Even it can slash in few years.
Thank you so much, Dr. Delessa Bulcha, for joining me again. Dear viewers, this has been the conversation with Dr. Delessa Bulcha, who is an economist. And see you another time. Our discussion point has been the Ethiopian food security progress, as well as the contribution of the agriculture sector for the macroeconomy. And also we tried to see the inclusion of the engagement of the private sector in the agricultural sector. Thank you for joining us again, and see you another time.